Lord, thank you for this community. Thank you for the power of intercession. Thank you for your love. Oh God, we just put our eyes on you because desperately in need of your divine hand. And we thank you, God. You are working, you are moving, you are doing something extraordinary in this day and this hour. And we get to be part of it as a praying community. We thank you for the power of intercession. So here we are. Okay, I want to share a couple things. Sharon showed me these pictures, or she brought them to my attention, because this is the home, first of all, the home, and then the next door of Aaron Glazier, who is the National Leadership Center director. He is always on Monday. So if you've been on this call, you know who I'm talking about. Well, we just bless him. But this is his neighbor's property. So one of the bombs fell last night right there. There's the neighbor's property, but then this is the entrance to his house, which has shattered glass. Sharon, do you want to just quickly mention he was up all night, as I understand it, in the bomb shelter?
Yeah, he it's been a very long night and they were in the bomb shelter when this happened, but it was a cluster bomb which had about 11 uh after bombs, you know how those work,
Yeah.
um which I believe are illegal in warfare. Anyway, so it fell near his house, and then it led after these after bombs, which is what hit the entrance to his place.
Yeah.
Um, and Dakota said, I went through that lobby every time I was with Ron. Um, yeah, it's been a very trauma-filled night for them.
Okay, I'm going to show this. Mark sent this to me. This is what these look like. This is about 2 minutes worth of education for us. So just wanting to show you again what we're dealing with here. You know, my mother, my Canadian mother up in Stratford, Ontario, said, how is it possible for them to still send rockets? And here it is once more. It's because their rocket launchers are buried in very remote fields or mountains. So this is the difficulty of trying to locate all these rocket launchers that for years they've been planning this, hiding them very well situated in remote mountainous regions. Therefore, the US and Israel is trying desperately to find where the rocket launchers are. This is another introduction, as mentioned, about these cluster bombs. So, anyways, worthy of us prayer. We want to just say, I believe God answered prayer by protecting Iran last night and those in Tel Aviv. This also shows the way that they're doing warfare from Iran, is they don't care about the fact that these are civilian sites that they're targeting, civilians, as opposed to the military targets that the US and Israel are doing. So Lots of prayer still needed in this conflict, including the completion of regime change. I love the fact that Trump is saying, I'm done with negotiations. You either surrender or we're just going to continue. Good, because we don't want to see just 2.0 of Islamic hardline regime. So thank you, God. Let's keep praying. Again, we'll joining with a fast next week. So, Andrew, you're up in Canada in Tyndale, which is great. That's a lovely uh, Christian university in the Toronto region. We heard from your wife before. So, if you want to share with us like 15 minutes of what you're seeing, what you're feeling, how we can pray. This is a community of intercessors, international community of intercessors that pray daily for Israel, the Jewish people, and what you're seeing in Canada. And you can comment if you know much about. I keep getting people sending me the Jerusalem prayer breakfast information this month in Ottawa, if you know anything about that. But over to you, and thanks so much. I can't hear you.
My
Oh, there you are. Okay, yeah, keep going.
On her way to New York City to meet with.
Is it just me, everybody, or can you hear him? Can anybody hear him?
No,
I
he's cutting out.
You're cutting out. Is it possible to lose your earpods and just go with normal talking? Because let's try that. Let's try that. I'll mute everybody else. Nope, can't hear you. Do you want to just switch your setting?
Sorry about that.
Okay, now we can hear you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, now we can.
So for those of you who don't know me, I've known Mark and Sue for about 25 years, but I grew up in New York City. I heard the gospel in university, and I was baptized in 1981 by a Holocaust survivor. I worked for the United States government on the U.S. space shuttle program. I used to be an aerospace engineer. After a couple of years of that, I felt called to ministry and served with Jews for Jesus for 38 years. Retired about 5 years ago. Did my PhD at the University of Toronto, but during my time with Jews for Jesus, had the opportunity to work in Jewish communities all around North America and in Israel, in South Africa, in Europe, in Germany, in Poland, and in the Ukraine. Um, so we have three kids, and our oldest son was born while Laura and I were serving in South Africa, and he has Down syndrome. And so I felt that toward the end of my ministry with Jews for Jesus, that God was calling me into a new kind of ministry. And I wrote a book about living in proximity to human disability. And in these 30 years, living with our son and academically, I've come to understand that we live in a world of human difference, but that God wants us to live in this kind of world for our own flourishing. And what my life is about now is reflecting and teaching on the nature of human care and hospitality. And I've had the opportunity to do that at Tyndale and the University of Toronto, as well as Ambrose University, Laurier University. Um, and so that's really what my life is about. And I'm trying to understand and embrace the uncertainty that comes with living in proximity to difference and disability, and to reflect on how we can cope and ultimately be enriched by the ambiguity of living with disability. And I want to be able to seek out intimate and open closeness with difference and disability. So I haven't been directly involved in the work of Jewish evangelism for 6 years. But in my retirement, my wife was able to come on staff full time with Jews for Jesus and enter into a very unique sort of ministry that you know about in reaching out to Haredi women. And only recently that's been merged with reaching out to Haredi men as well. So she runs a team that's reaching out to both men and women. I don't think that I would be able to help you with any particular understanding about current events uh, or anti-Semitism. My son goes to a day program that's in an Orthodox area run by Orthodox people, and there's quite a bit of security revolving around that. And which I'm very thankful for. But he's in an area on Bathurst and Clark that has a lot of synagogues, and but the security is terrific. And even on the first day of the war, as I was driving through that neighborhood, there was a lot of police presence in the synagogues and in the Jewish community centers here in Toronto. Even though Toronto is experiencing a lot of anti-Semitism, and just last week there was a bullet hole in a local synagogue just close to me in North York. I generally, feel that the police forces are giving us and the Jewish community a great deal of security, which I'm very thankful for. But the focus of my ministry really is disability and theology, teaching and writing, and having the opportunity to speak in various conferences about disability and theology, the nature of human care, what I call ableism, the focus that we have on what we consider to be normal. I'm writing a second book on disability and mortality, which is a very interesting topic to me because I've always been fascinated by my son and trying to figure out whether or not he understands whether or not he's actually subject to death. And I'm trying to understand from our scriptures and from tradition, but also from intuition, as to whether or not Rafi understands that he's mortal. And there's not a lot of literature about that, and that's what I'm writing my second book about. My first book sort of touched on that subject, but I felt like it deserved to have a more deep dive. Um, so I was concerned that my ministry and my life is not centered around Jewish evangelism or understanding what's going on in the Jewish community. But Mark wanted me to tell you a little bit about what I'm about and what I've done and what I've seen. But honestly, have been really out of the picture with regards to Jewish people and Jewish evangelism in Israel for some time. I've been to Israel many, many times, but haven't been there for about 10 years. So it would be hard for me to really comment as an expert or an insider on any of these matters. But if you had any questions for me, I'd really be glad to try to answer those right now.
Can you go back to what you said you were in New York and did you say who was the Holocaust survivor? Was there somebody in your family that was? Can you repeat that? That went fast.
After I heard the gospel in university, it was in
Uh-huh.
Florida. I moved to Denver, Colorado, and there was a man there who was with a mission to the Jews that's now Chosen People Ministry, but his name was Eliezer Urbach. Um,
Right.
he
Okay.
was a very well-known worker among the Jewish people. He was a survivor, and I began going to his Bible studies. And he baptized me in 1981,
Okay.
and
That's a
I
beautiful,
became very
sorry.
close friends with his son Chaim,
Chaim.
who just
Yeah.
recently passed away. But Chaim discipled me, and Chaim, grew up in Israel as well, and was a very close friend.
Did you ever meet Johnny Christie Eisner,
And that
who,
doesn't ring a bell.
okay, they were there as well under good friends of Chaim as well. Okay, interesting because it was him got what's this, A Fury Out of Fury. That was the book from Urbach. That was such a very good read, by the way. Okay, interesting. Thank you for sharing. Does anybody have any quick questions um for Andrew?
Yeah, I have a question, Andrew. When you're talking about human difference, um, I'm just asking, sometimes the Jew-Gentile difference is a very significant one. And um, I think sometimes Gentiles find that one a little bit difficult to navigate. So some of your principles about dealing with human difference, because we are different. If a Christian meets an Orthodox Jewish person, there's a big difference. So what are some of the variables you deal with, and how you sort of work yourself into because I've worked with people with disability as well, but I'm really curious if you could apply some of that to how we navigate Jewish communities who,
My book doesn't deal, with those kinds of issues, but in principle, the best kind of communication between people who are different in the non-disabled world is communication where you seek to understand the perspective of the other and not your own perspective. So the best kind of gospel communication for me is communication where you are centering yourself on the needs and the understanding of other people and not yourself. But that's not really the focus of my research. My research is on being in proximity to people who are mentally different, and also who have various sorts of physical disabilities. In that, uh, being in proximity to human difference makes us more human, helps us to understand the basis of human care and human hospitality, because we are created to care. That's in the Genesis mandate, and we live such separate lives that we don't understand what it means to offer care or hospitality, especially to the disabled. And I talk about the difference between what it means for the disabled to be included or to belong, because the disabled are often included, but they don't belong. And people who are included don't feel that they belong, but people who belong are always included. Um, and so my focus has really changed over the past 6 years. Um, but I think that the basis of human communication when it comes to Jew Gentile is also similar in that people are different. They have different worldviews, different experiences, different points of view. But the best way to communicate is through trying to understand the perspective of other people and not trying to force them to understand our point of view.
Patricia, you're muted.
Thank you, Sarah. Mark put in the chat his book if you want to check that out. And this comes from your own experience with having a Down syndrome son, of course. And people are asking if you want to put the website in the chat, if you have a website. And we're going to go into intercession. One quick question: autism? Do you research autism as well?
Yeah, the principles are the same. My son has shades of autism, and so that can be profoundly disabling. My son is verbal. He has receptive language. He has the ability to communicate, and often people with autism don't. I'm trying to find where the chat is.
Down below. Should say chat, or yeah, chat. Okay, no problem. All right, let's
I'll
go
put
into
my website in the chat when you're
yeah, when
as you.
we're praying. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. God bless you, Andrew, and your wife and all that you do. And God bless Canada. So there's a lot of Canadians on here. We want to keep praying for Canada. We want to pray now into all the things that we have been discussing this week. Sharon, I'm going to ask you to start. We want to lift up our friend Aaron, whose neighborhood was bombed. These cluster bombs, illegal. I didn't even realize that, to be honest with you, that the cluster bombs make sense. These bombs that have, as I showed, if you came on late, we showed just what they look like, but they're very difficult for the Israeli defense system to take out because of the fact that they splinter into, I think the like many, there it is right there. You can see how they splinter into many different bombs. So they're hard for the IDF defense system to take out, because it gets overwhelmed by that many coming at the same time. And this is taking really the war into a different level, especially, of course, for Israel. And so let's keep praying. And the fact that they didn't get any sleep last night. The other thing I want to mention is what we might not realize. I think I mentioned this before, but just to say that we have another friend whose son is a diplomat in the Islamabad, that's in Pakistan, embassy. And all of the consulates in Pakistan, we're talking American consulates, have all been shut down because they've been attacked by Shia Muslims. So keep in mind, we've got these two different factions of Muslims, the Sunnis and the Shias. And who are the Iranians? They're Shia. So it's the Shias who think, wait a second, you just took out our Ayatollah who's next to Allah, and so they're all raging. So what they've done in Pakistan, the Shia Muslims, is attacked the American consulates. There was 9 dead last week or a few days ago in one consulate, but now they're going after today, like a day of rage, add on Ramadan, which we're still in, and they're coming after the embassy in Islamabad, who our friend's son is a diplomat. Okay, so he is saying nobody's allowed in, nobody's allowed out. They're hunkering down. They got these big barricades, but he says, I don't think they're going to penetrate, but he says, I'm very concerned for the police. These are the Pakistani police who are the front lines and are trying to protect the few Americans that are still in the embassy. So this war is reaching different places on the planet. And of course, I shared this yesterday, the picture of the sleeper cells that at least the ones that are known in America, which is plenty. I don't know about here, I can show that to you one more time. I'm very happy that I live in Kansas, and Kansas doesn't have any sleeper cells that they know of, at least. There it is. But all the red places, which is a lot, have sleeper cells that are known, by the FBI and by the some of these, by the way, were let in through the southern border previously. But anyways, there we've got it. Terrorist networks in America. Canada has some as well. We just don't have a map for Canada unless somebody can find one. So this is another prayer point is, them trying to rise up at this time to add on to what's going on in the Middle East. So Sharon, why don't you launch us? We'll pray. We'll pray for Iran as well.
Yeah, thank you.